My name is Eddie Hodges Jr. My name was changed. My name was Alvin Bernard Hodges. My father got highly upset with my mom because she named me Alvin. So my father put pressure on my mom and they changed it to make me a junior. Eddie Hodges Jr. Eddie Willie Hodges Jr. I don't know. I think they should have stuck with Alvin.
About how old were you when that happened?
It was a few months.
Okay.
It was a few months. Probably could have been maybe like 3 months or something like that.
Okay.
And my father was upset about it, and he was putting pressure on my mom about changing my name, and it was changed.
Mm-hmm. And so the family that you come from, the Hodges, tell us a little bit about the Hodges. How many children were there?
My family, my siblings, it was 6 of us.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest brother, his name is James. We call him Sonny. My sister, Emma, she's right after my brother, Sonny. Then myself, Eddie. My sister, Joyce. After Joyce was my brother, Donald. Donald, he's deceased.
Mm-hmm.
Donald. And then my baby sister, which is Lenora.
Mm-hmm.
So it was 6 of us.
Where'd you all grow up?
I was born in Mississippi. I was born in Goodman, Mississippi, little small town in Goodman, in 1956, April the 15th, 1956. I stayed there until I was like second grade. No, maybe 3rd grade. And my family relocated to Florida. So we moved to Florida. And my father was like a supervisor for, I don't know if they call it sharecropping, but what he would do, he would go different places, just like down in Florida, they'll be picking tomatoes, or they'll be picking strawberries, or they'll be picking oranges, and all of it was seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
And we would stay down there in Florida probably for close to a year. Then the people would load up and they would move to Carolina, and there they'll pick tobacco. And so from there we'll come back down to Florida. So we go back and forth, So I could have been 6th grade when we finally settled down and moved here to the Chicagoland area. But we was going back and forth from Florida to Carolina. After the sharecropping is over with in Carolina, then we'll go back down to Florida. So I stayed in Ruskin, Florida, Tampa, Florida area, and those areas.
Yeah. What area in Chicago did you all move to?
West side, best side. We moved to the west side of Chicago. When we came up here, it was like the Great Migration, when during that time you had a lot of people that was coming from the south and moving up north. And we moved in with my auntie, my father's sister, his oldest sister, Elizabeth Brown. We moved in with her and her family. It's like everybody that came up here, they would move in with my Aunt Elizabeth, and then when this person get a job and then get an apartment, then they move out, then another family member, they come up. And so her sister, Alice May, she had came up and stayed with my auntie. And then once she got situated and got her own apartment, then we came up. It was during that great migration. Then we came up and we stayed with her. And we stayed with her probably for about maybe 4 months. And my mom and dad was able to get an apartment. And the first apartment we had was 1317 South Kildare in K-Town on the west side of Chicago on the second floor.
Now, what was Chicago like around the time you all came here?
It was to me, it was kind of smooth, okay? You had your little gang activity, but in the area that I came up in, it was involved in a lot of things. I came up in the Franklin Park area, and that Franklin Park area is where I learned how to play basketball, baseball, ice skate, because during the winter time they would clear out the park and they would put water down there and they make it an ice ring, and we would get out there and ice skate. And so Franklin Park, talent shows, had a lot of talent shows that was going on during that time. The gang activity wasn't all of that bad. You had your gang stuff that was going on, but it was mainly about fighting with your fists. You know, a person might get stabbed here and there, you know, or somebody getting shot. It was far and few between. You know, it was all about, you know, being a man and, you know, being able to box back then. You had to box. You had to box. Listen, you had to box back then. So, and that's what it was during that time. So, yeah, it was different than what it is today, but it was a laid back, cool area, cool time. You know, where we wore big apple caps and our bush haircuts. You know, back then you had bush haircuts. Y'all don't know nothing about that.
Tell us about that. So, what was your style like as a young man?
Well, at that point, you know, I was in upper grade center. When I went to high school, I was an athlete. I was an athlete. If I would have got some height like my boy Manny, big old boy like that, I would have made the league. Okay. So I played baseball in high school. I played a little bit college, and I played a little semi-pro baseball. And after high school, that's when things changed for me. It changed, and I believe to this day, the reason it changed was because my father and my mom split up, and my father left. I had a lot of respect for my dad because I knew when he said something, you know, and if you do contrary, you're going to deal with the consequences that came behind that. And I had a lot of respect for my father, even though he had his ways, you know. I mean, he was a drinker and all of that stuff. But when he wasn't, he was handling his business. So I had a lot of respect. In high school, that's when my father left. I was a sophomore in high school. And that was a time that I really needed him. I needed that father figure. And by him stepping out of the home and my mom working the way that she did, and she was a hardworking lady. I mean, she was a grinder. My mom would work all year long and wouldn't miss a day. She would save up her vacation for Christmas time, and she would use all of that, you know, to make sure she got extra money that she can give us a beautiful Christmas. I mean, she lived for it. But at any rate, so I was a baseball player, and by my father leaving, you know, now I had opportunity to start getting involved in other stuff, you know. And so after high school, and that's when things really took a turn. It took a turn. The area that I lived in, at that point, I had moved to 4019 South Monroe on the west side. And I got involved in con games, okay, because the neighborhood that I lived in, it was a neighborhood where everybody, they wanted to be a hustler, they wanted to be a player, they wanted to be a pimp. Everybody needed this title, you know. So the title that I had was a hustler, you know, a hustler. And that means I played con games, and I was able to play con games, and I played it, you know, and I played it pretty well, okay. And what I would do, I had to live, okay. So I learned how to play a con game that is called 3-card Molly. Okay, a 3-card Molly was 3 cards, and 2 of the cards, you know, would be black, and the red card, you know, is the card that you turn over, and if you turn that card over, you get paid. But if you don't turn that card over and you turn over a black card, that means, you know, I win. So I learned how to play that con game. And we had a slogan that we would use. We was rapping before rapping came out, you know. We would say, you good folks gather around, watch your boogie skin it down. Baddest old game in this old town. Red card you win, black card you miss. And our rhyming would get the people attention because they would love to hear us talking. And there was another game that I would play. It was called Greasy P. Greasy P was when you have 3 tops and you got a little P under the top. And you would follow that P, and you would bet that you, just like the 3-card Molly, but you would bet the P be under that top. And when you flip that top, you know, the P is not there, even though you thought you saw it, okay? But the hands was quicker than the eyes. And so I learned those con games. And I would travel and play, go up to the Milwaukee area and play my con, go out to Oklahoma and play my cons, go to the rodeo where them real live cowboys, you know, and Indians would go out there to the rodeo and play my cons. Back home in the city, we would ride the CTA bus. We would come out to the south side. This is where we made our money off of, you know, the south side folks. Sorry, y'all. but we would come to the south side of Chicago, and there we would, you know, catch the L and get off on 79th Street and play it on 79th Street. Or we would go down 63rd Street down in that area where the clothing store was, down on 63rd in Halston. But one of the main route would be getting off on 95th Street, because you had the big Evergreen Plaza, and the buses would be packed going to Evergreen Plaza. And once you get out there, man, we all the different boys from the west side, you bumping into them, say, hey man, we got this bus. And you know, different ones would be there, you know, playing their cons. And I used to play a lot with this boy named Kenny. We used to call him Black Kenny. And this good friend of mine, he and I was like brothers. His name was Prince Young. And you know, we would play together. Prince was the one that encouraged me to come out to Oklahoma and play out there. So, you know, so that's how I grew up. got myself in a lot of trouble playing these different con games. But it was a way of life. It was survival to us, I had to get paid. And my mind was so messed up that even though it's your money, I had the attitude, that's my money, I gotta get paid. And when a lady or whatever would lose their money, and it could be the ADC check money, we had absolutely no sympathy for them, because the only person we could beat was somebody thinking they was getting something for nothing. Mm-hmm. And when you got tricked, you just got tricked, because if you would have kept what you had, and there'll be times when people wouldn't bet, and we would do everything we can to encourage them to bet, and they wouldn't bet. We would call them an honest John. You satisfied with what you got. You're an honest John. So, but when somebody would lose and they'll be crying or whatever, there was absolutely no sympathy for them, because you was trying to get something for nothing, and you lost your money because you thought you was going to trick me, but you was the trick, and that's what we would call them. You're a trick.
Now you mentioned this being a part of survival. Yes, how long was this the mindset, like the survival mindset, and at what point did that shift?
Well, it was my mindset. I guess from maybe like 18, 19 is when I went just headlong into it. During that time, I called myself a hustler, but I was involved in the time of Superfly, and I was doing that time, I was involved in forest, fancy cars, triple white Tornado. So during that time, it was like leaning, and leaning and digging the scene with your gangster lean. and my hair was my God. I wore perm during that time, and it was a Superfly. It was a hustler thing, It was a Mac Daddy type of thing back then. It was being clean. It was wearing tailor-made clothes back then, It was about sidewinders shoes. Oh boy, I tell you, and wearing your stacks. So I was really into trying to be Mac Daddy, Superfly, or whatever, and everybody back then, they wanted to be cool, they wanted to be hip, And during that time, a lot of gang stuff had died out, because a lot of people now, their mind is, I want to be a hustler, I want to be a drug dealer, I want to be a pimp. Well, I was never so much into dope. I would sell it here and there when my money would get low, just to get on my feet. But I was mainly, into playing cons. And so, again, my hair, I guess my children have to pull up some of my pictures, but my hair was like my God. I would get my hair done sometime twice a day. I would go out in the morning time and hustle. Then at night, when it's time to go out, I would go to my beautician. Her name was Toy, in CC. I would go to my beautician and tell him to set it back in again and go ahead on and put those wave clamps on your head. She'll spray it with water, because it's been done. Spray it with water, then take the weight clamps and put them on there, and then put you back under the dryer. Now, I'm ready for the night, and so that was my life, and I lived like that until I'm 21. 21 is when a change took place, in my life. I was really going through some things, and I really did not know what I was going through. But I had a friend of mine. We had moved out to the south side of Chicago when God really started talking to me about my lifestyle. And we had moved out to Chicago. My mom had bought a house. I'm talking about on the south side, 8136 Morgan. And I would leave there and go to the west side and hang out or whatever. So one evening, a friend of mine, my friend, I make mention of, his name is Prince. Prince came by the house, and Prince had been out there to Rainbow Beach. And he was out there playing con games, and he had beat some guys out of drugs. And he came by the house, and he told me, what had happened. Hey man, I left. I was out there Rainbow Beach, and I tricked some guys, and and I beat them out their drugs, and it was tack. The drug was called tack. Tack is animal or elephant tranquilizer. But back then in the day, tack was one of the big things that people would do. They would hit a little tack, and then they be good to go. But it would trip you, okay? It would cause you to hallucinate. So he told me, say, hey man, I won this drug. I got it at the house. When you come by this evening, maybe we can hit some. And so I told him, I said, okay man, I'll be on the west side later that night. So that evening, I went over there to the west side. He said I'd be at the pool hall. So I went to the pool hall on Carson and Madison. And while I was at the pool hall, he said, okay man, let's go to the hallway. We went to the hallway, and he pulled out the drugs. And it's just something about when you can get something free, okay? When you get something free, you just, And so I hit it hard. And when I hit it, he screamed. He said, I told you, man, this stuff was potent. I've been tripping on this stuff, man, for a few days. And he did tell me that, but it's free, It's just sad, but that's the way we thought, And so I went over there in front of the pool hall, and we were just sitting there. I was sitting on the cars and stuff, talking in front of the pool hall. And this guy named Harold, he walked up, and Harold, he started, playing the con game in front of us. Well, our attitude was, if you play the con game and I play the con game, if I can trick you, then somebody else don't stand a chance. You know what I'm talking about? So Harold, he came up, and he started playing in front of us, and different ones betting and all of that. Then this guy named Tim and his girlfriend, they walked up, and I started saying, I've seen this somewhere, but I can't remember where I saw it. And another guy came up, and I said, I saw this. I'm tripping on the drugs, I'm like, I saw this somewhere, but where did I see it? Then it dawned on me, I saw it in a dream. And in the dream, the world came to an end. And I'm tripping, and my mind is going and coming, And I can't say anything, because if I say the world coming to an end, they're gonna say, man, Ed done flipped, he done tripped out. So I everything is happening just like I saw it in the dream. And then my friend Prince, he said, man, you tripping, so we got to get you home. So we got on the bus. And as we was going down the street, everything is happening just like the dream. Just exactly the way the dream went. And I'm in my mind, the world's going to come to an end when we get off the bus on Madison and Pulaski, right on the corner. The world's going to come to an end. I'm tripping, and Prince like, man, Ed, you gone, man. We got to get you to the L. And in my mind, we going to make it to the y'all don't understand. But I couldn't say anything, because if I would have started expressing that, man, they would have like, Ed done tripped out, And so when we got to Madison and Pulaski, and I'm in a cold sweat because I got to get up off this bus, and when I stepped off of the bus, the world came to an end in my dream. So I stepped off the bus, my heart, man, palpitating, man, skipping beats, and I stepped off the bus and nothing happened. And so I got to Lake in Pulaski, and I got on the L. What kind of friends? They got me to the L. They saw I was messed up. They wouldn't bring me home. They took me to the L. They made sure I got on the L, These my buddies, I got on the L, and I'm riding the L, and I'm tripping big time. Am I being too long?
No, you're fine.
Okay. And I'm tripping big time, I'm like in another zone. I'm like in another world. And I'm begging God to have mercy on me. I'm begging God because I knew I had OD'd. I'm begging God to spare me. And so Lake Street L, I don't know if they still do it now, but Lake Street L, when it come down, it used to make that turn to get on Wabash. Then it's like it's going south, and make that turn then it's like it's going south. And when it made that turn like it's going south, I started begging God to please have mercy on me. I know I need to get my life right. And when it had made that turn, it's nighttime now, and I opened my eyes and I saw a light that was flashing on and off, on and off, on and off. And it said, Jesus Save.
Oh, wow.
The Pacific Garden Mission. They used to be right there off of Wabash, and you could see off of State, but off of Wabash you could see the big cross, and the cross was saying Jesus Save, Jesus Save. And I told God, I said, Lord, I'm gonna get saved. Just let me take this girl to a prom. I said, Jesus, if you just let me take this girl to a prom, I'm going to get my life right. Well, God spared me, and I totally forgot what I committed to God and what I vowed to God. And the Bible said it is better not to vow than to vow and not pay, because the Lord will surely require of thee. Mm-hmm. So went to the prom, and I started having these dreams about death, having these dreams, and I went to sleep one night, and I woke up and I saw a shadow that was standing over me like the Grim Reaper. And the shadow scared me so bad that I actually jumped behind my bed, and I was hiding, and I started peeping up just to see was it still there. but I knew what I saw. It scared me to death. I saw it just standing over me. I went to the beauty shop that night, and that evening, and my beautician, her name was Toy, and I was telling her about my dream, and what I saw. And she said, Eddie, you're living too fast. You need to slow down. Well, I'm playing cons, and during that time I had got big in fencing checks. Okay, I don't talk about this too often because there's no statutory limit with the government. So it's a rarity that I talk about this, but I had got big with that. And it didn't make no difference, what type of check I could cash that check. And she said, you living too fast. Eddie, you need to slow down. And she started digging me. You need to slow down, slow your roll. Because the old people call that the valley of the shadow of death. And you need to slow down. You need to come to church with me, Eddie. Okay. Okay, Toy. So I went. I went. She's my beautician, but she had something for me, you know what I'm saying? But I just wouldn't go that route because her husband, he was a good old guy. And so after that, I would be out sometime hanging out with the boys, and then all of a sudden the fear of death would come upon me, and I couldn't go home. I would go to a hotel or something, and spend the night there. And when I finally made it home, it was like, the security of being there. Like, okay, I'm in a safe haven. So one evening, I'm going to the west side so I can get my hair done. And I got on my tailor-made clothes, I had on my black pinstripe suit with my black hat broke down all the way around, hair hanging down, and styling and profiling.
It's fine, huh?
and I'm standing up there, and it was a beautiful day, awesome day, And while I'm standing there and I'm looking around, all of a sudden the sun went down, just like instantly, like the sun went down, and the wind started blowing real hard, and the thought came to me, the world coming to an end. And that fear gripped me again, oh God, I got to go home, okay. And when that fear gripped me, it was a lady that was sitting on the air platform, and she was sitting there calm, reading her Bible. And I looked over, and the fear's on me, the word coming to an end. And I walked over and I took a seat by her. She never looked up. She kept her head in her Bible, reading her Bible. And I said, ma'am, excuse me, are you saved? She said, it's really, really something. It's really something. You asked me that question. She said, Jesus is about to come back. And when she said that, and God already been telling me the world coming to an end, I was like, oh God. And her name was Rebecca Dobbs, Sister Rebecca Dobbs. She went to church and got together with an old sister by the name of Sister Hopkins. They went on a 3-day fast without bread, water, praying that God save me. And, they made known how I'm under conviction, how God is talking to me because I told her the stuff that I had been going through. And she got together with her. They went on this 3-day fast. All of a sudden, I'm dreaming about church now. I dream about church one night, dream about church the next night. And I told God, dreamed about church the third night. And I told God, I said, Lord, if I dream about, that night, that Saturday night, I've been dreaming about church. I'm scared to go outside. I'm locked in the house. I got me some weed. I got me some boom bomb. Okay? I'm just going to cool it and get high. And I got my record going on. It's around here somewhere. And I got my record going on. And I'm smoking that weed, drinking that boom bomb. I'm trying to take it higher. And listening to my song that was called Time's Running Out by Brass Fever. And the song said, time's running out. Maybe your last chance. Time's running out. You better run. Oh my God. And the album cover had the meter, had the picture of a meter on it, like with the hand right on 0, letting you know that your time is running out. It may be your last chance. You better run. And God had my eyes fixed on that picture. And the song is witnessing to me that my time's running out. It may be your last chance. You better run. And I fell on my knees. God blew my high. God blew my high. God blew my high. I was smoking that bowl. That bowl was one of the big things back there. Smoking that bowl, that Colombian. And drinking that boom fine. Strawberry wine. God blew my high. Your time's running out. Oh, the power of God. Oh, Jesus. And God, your time's running out. It may be your last chance. You better run. And I fell down on my knees and I told God, I said, I know this is God. You're talking to me. I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know what you want me to be. But I told God that I'm willing to do it. I didn't know that them old saints had got a hold of God on my behalf. Them old saints had prayed through. And God had heard their prayers. And God sent the very spirit of conviction to arrest my soul. I didn't. And I told God, I said, okay. I got up and I said, okay. Trying to get my composure, I said, if this is God, I said, Lord, give me another dream about church. I surrendered my life that night. I said, give me another dream about church, and I'm going to church. I went to bed. I dreamed about church again. Normally, when I would get a tract from somebody, I was not disrespectful and in front of them, just throw it down on the streets. I would walk down the street, then throw it down. But this time, I kept that tract and I put it at the head of my bed. So when I dreamed about church again, I reached up there and I pulled that tract down, had the number Rebecca Dobbs. Rebecca Whitten was her name back then. I called her that Sunday morning and I said, hello, this is the young man, Eddie, that you met. I want to come to church. Praise the Lord! Praise the Lord! She started praising God, and she said, okay, I meet you at the front door. And so when I got to the church, I'm still this worldly guy, I'm sharp, I got my hair done, I'm sharp. And so she met me at the front door with a high school friend of mine named Alan Lee. And he was just talking to me about this a couple of months ago. He said, man, you didn't even want to wait to the end of church service. You said you wanted to talk to the pastor now. I said, yeah, I want to talk to the pastor now. It was before the radio station. I said, I want to talk to him now. We went into the office, and he introduced himself to me, Willie Gordon, Pastor Willie Gordon. And he sat down, and I told him my story and all the stuff that I was going through. And I had did something, but at any rate, he came to this conclusion. He said, the way that God has been talking to you, God is about to cut you off. And he asked me, far as being saved. And I said, yeah, I want to be saved. But I had actually got saved that night. And he prayed with me. And service still hadn't started. And I came out, and I came in front of the church. No, service did. It was the end. And I stood up in front of the church, and I told him, Pastor, so who are you? I told him I'm Eddie Hodges, and how God has saved me. I had said some crazy stuff, about, how cool and how fine I am. It's just the craziness of the world. Y'all got me. Y'all understand? The blacker the beer, the sweeter the juice. The street was all in me. And so while I'm talking crazy, God tell Linda, that's your husband. and she said, devil, the Lord rebuke you. And so she took a stand against the Lord. She said, devil, the Lord rebuke you. The Lord rebuke you. And so, after being saved for about 2 years, right at 2 years, and I was coming out of the car wash, and such a burden came over me, such a yearn for a family. And I told God, I said, Lord, I want a family. I said, I want a family. I mean, I'm young at this time. I'm 22 years old. 22, yeah. It wasn't 2 years. I was 22. And so I was going to trade school, Washburn Trade School on 35th Street. And so I came out of the car wash at the gas station, and such a burden came over me out of nowhere. I'm young. I'm 22 years old. Probably just had made 22, and such a burden came over me, and I yearned out, and I spoke. I said, I want a family. And when I said that, I went to school. I was at Washburn Trade School, and I was studying vending technician. And I was sitting in the class, me and this other brother, his name was Richard Davis. We sitting in class, and all of a sudden, an open vision appeared unto me. And I saw Linda. I saw her face. I have never had an open vision before, and I have never had one since then. All of a sudden, an open vision came, and I just saw her face, and it was like, wow. And so I brother Richard, I said, Richard, we were in class. I said, Richard, God just showed me my wife. And he said, what? I said, man, I just had an open vision, and I saw Sister Linda. And Richard, he was close. He was close to Linda. He just, kept it to himself. And I went to this counselor. Her name was Sister Mary Boyd. I went to her and I told her that I believe God showed me my wife. And she said, "Oh, you do?" I said, "Yes, I do." And I believe just like God showed her to me, I believe God can show me to her without me saying anything. She said, "Oh, you believe that, little brother?" And I said, "Yes, I believe it." Okay. So now I got a sister on my mind. Hey, forget about this Washburn. I gotta get a job. It's time to make a move. And so a friend of mine was working at Eckrich Meat Company, and his name was Robert Wade. He was from my hometown down in Mississippi. And so Robert got me a job at Eckrich Meat Company down off of Halston, close to 35th Street, down in that area. And I was making good money. And I'm like, man, I'm making this money. Now I can go ahead home and, talk to this sister. And so I'm excited now. I'm making the money. I went to Sister Boyd and I said, "Sister Boyd, maybe I can approach the sister." She said, "Oh no, brother. Oh no, you remember what you said. You said just like God showed Linda to you, you believe God can show you to Linda. So no, brother, you can't do it." I was put in handcuffs. Well, I put myself in handcuffs. So during this time, I'm just praying and trusting God. And one day, it was a man that was upstairs in the chapel, and she came downstairs to let us know that it was somebody up there and they wasn't being monitored, but she couldn't look at me in the face. Okay. Lord, you must be working. She dropped her head. And so and she just dropped her head real modest, like like shamefacedness, brother Eddie, there's a man up there and thus and thus and thus. And I had spoken to her because one day we was coming from a meeting in Norton. We had went up there during Thanksgiving. We had went up to Norton to pass our tracks at the college up there. And when the van came back, they let her out in front of our house, and Tony Glaze was standing there. I knew Tony from the west side. He used to come over to the west side from the south side and hang out with this guy named Foster. Foster lived across the street from me. And so I saw Tony there. And so I'm like, wow. So they gave, I just asked her the question, I said, "Who was that guy?" And she told me that was her brother-in-law. I said, "Wow, I know Tony from the west side over there, come over and get high and all that stuff, And that was about the size of it. So one day I'm just fast forwarding it. I gave Sister Board a call just to check and see how things was going. I called her and she said, "Oh my God." She said, "Little brother, God has favored you." Said, Sister Linda came to me and told me that you has really been on her heart and she's interested in you. Praise the Lord. After that, God had answered my prayer because I did not ask God for a wife. I asked God for a family. And that's what God gave me. He gave me Linda and Tia. God gave me a family. And it's amazing the relationship that God blessed me with, with Tia. Tia is an outstanding woman, but she was like that as a girl, Tia is a beautiful girl. She was a beautiful girl coming up, and just to see how God has blessed her and to see where her life is at right now. So I just want to throw that in. God gave me a family, So after we decided that we was going to get married and we was courting and stuff.
Well, how did you end up going to her?
How?
Yeah, so the boy told you.
Oh, I met her downtown at a restaurant.
So you invited her out.
Mm-hmm. I got a phone number from this brother named Ricky Morris because he was close to Linda, and so she wasn't expecting my call. So Ricky, he gave me her phone number, and I called her, and I asked her, could she meet me for dinner, and for lunch actually, and we met downtown for lunch, and I expressed to her, what was on my mind, and I just feel that God has given you to me, and I like to prove it by us talking and praying, praying actually. Then we start talking, and so we started courting, dating, and so I had to meet her family. So I come over to the house, and all of these Alexanders, man, Lord Jesus. So I meet the family, okay? Came over for dinner, and the first impression of Muddy was a lasting impression. She was so candid, and she was so authentic and real. And so she told me who she was and all of that, and she said, "Linda Diane is a good girl, but Brother Eddie, she's slow. She's slow." She said, "This girl so slow." She said, and I told her, God have mercy, Muddy will never lie. Jesus have mercy. Linda had one gear and she wasn't changing it for nothing and nobody. And Leslie got that curse. So
at what point did you meet Latia?
I met Latia. I came over to the house one day. Linda did a dinner. I mean, I have been seeing Tia all the time at church, but it was Linda did a dinner to the house, and that's how, just introducing me from that standpoint. So We got married September the 13th, 1980. And out of that marriage came 9 children, a total of 10 children. So during this time, I'm just I'm inspired. I'm inspired to the things of God. I'm really inspired to be used by God. And she noticed that the hand of God was upon me. I didn't know that God was leading me in the ministry, but I just wanted to be everything that God wanted me to be. And I was putting the work in to do it. When I say putting the work in, I'm studying the Word of God. I'm giving myself to prayer. I'm working in the jail. I built the jail in Chicago. When I left Chicago, that jail was the biggest outreach that they had. When I left, they wanted to make me a chaplain over 26th in California by giving me a badge that I can go in and out whenever I want to. So I'm giving myself to the ministry. And different brothers had taken a stand to and made known their ministry. I felt I didn't have to take a stand. I felt I didn't have to just make known, just do the work. A man's gift will make room for him and bring him before kings. Just do the work. And that's what I was focusing on, just doing the work. And one night I got a call from a pastor. He had just taken over the pastoralship down in Missouri, O'Fallon, Missouri. His name is Pastor Abraham Burden, and we was real close. We came in from church service that night, and he called me and he said, "Have you taken your stand for the ministry?" I said, "Take my stand for the ministry?" I said, "Man, look, I'm ministering, okay? I'm teaching Sunday school. I'm working in jail, the street meetings, And I said, I'm good." He said, "You going to hell," just like that. I said, "Going to hell?" He said, "Yeah, because you're afraid. And the Bible said that the filthy and the unbeliever shall have their part in the lake that burneth with fire and brimstone." I'm like, "Come on, man." Oh, man. That night, I couldn't sleep, man. He troubled me. He troubled me. Through the night, I'm toiling. Normally on Saturdays, I have to work. For some reason, this Saturday, I didn't have to work. I'm toiling all night. I'm I'm disturbed now. And it was maybe about 3:30 in the morning. And I said, "Who can I call?" I needed to express myself. "Who can I call?" And that man over there, George Duggar. I said, "Brother Duggar is probably up at this time. Let me call him. He's my spiritual father." What a man of God. He was an awesome man of God. And I said, "Brother Duggar, he's probably woke now. Let me call him." About 3:30 in the morning. I called the phone, the first ring. He picked it up. He said, "Hello." I started crying, "Brother Duggar. And he said, "Who is this? Brother Eddie?" I said, "Yeah, Brother Duggar. He said, "What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? God dealing with you about your ministry?" And I started crying. I said, it's like I'm at the top of a cliff, and something is telling me to leap, like take a leap of faith, leap. And I said, I bust out and started crying because I didn't want to displease God, and I said, I don't know What's at the bottom? What's at the bottom? There's something telling me to leap. I don't know what's at the bottom. And he told me, he said, take courage and obey God. He said, I see God's hand on you. He said, take courage and obey God. And I took that leap. And that's when God really started manifesting himself in my life, in my ministry. My ministry was not to in-house people, the Jews. But when God called me to the ministry, God told me over in Ephesians the 3rd chapter, given unto me the least of all the saints is this ministry given, that I should preach among the Gentiles the unsearchable riches of God, to make all men see what is the fellowship of the mystery, which been hid from the beginning of the world. God let me know I'm a Gentile preacher. That means your job is the streets, and he manifested himself through my life just like that, in preaching to the world, not just to the saints, but to the world, of ministry to the Gentiles, to the unsaved. And so as God was using me, and God had blessed my relationship with my pastor to be extremely good. I had a great relationship with my pastor, and I was doing well right there at 4601 South Drexel Boulevard. Had been there working hand in hand with the pastor. Probably I had been saved in maybe about 18 years probably. And one day a young man that he got a football scholarship to come to Joliet to play football. This young man was born and raised in the city. His grandmother, God called her to go down to St. Petersburg, Florida. And his mother, her name was Deborah, and his grandmother's name was Eula Jones. And when Sister Jones accepted the calling and went down to St. Petersburg, Deborah went along with her. And I used to live in Sister Jones' building, which was 7652 South Ada, the building that Frida used to stay in. We used to live in that building before Frida, on that same first floor. And so Deborah had 3 children. One was named Troy, and Shelley, and Tori. All right. So when Sister Jones accepted the calling and she went down to Florida, and Deborah and her children went with her, Troy became a football player, and he became pretty good. He got a scholarship to come out here and play at Joliet Junior College. So he came out here playing football, and he was going to school to be a nurse. Am I taking too long? Okay. And he's going to school to be a nurse. And the classes was difficult and hard and tough. And he had to play football, which is hard and difficult and tough. So brother man was catching it on both ends, And so he came to me one day, and he asked me, he said, could you help me with the Bible study out here in Joliet? Well, at that time, I was really working close with the pastors. A lot of Sunday morning church services, he was getting up in age, and I would preach. And my ministry was very active. I was over a group of people. We call them group number 5. My ministry was pretty active. And I told him, and going visiting the sick, serving communion to the sick. And I told him, I said, listen, man, I cannot make no commitments to you, but I do what I can to help you. Oh, Lord. What did I say that for? So I would come out and work with him through the week with the Bible study, and then maybe some Sundays or something that when they wouldn't come to Chicago, I would come out here and I would preach for them, and we ran a revival out here at Fairmont. Do you remember that, Trese?
No, I don't remember Fairmont.
We ran a revival out here at Fairmont. And when we ran the revival out here and God started saving souls, and God told me, I have much people in this city. And there was a family, which is still a part of the congregation, this sister Tanya, that had all these little babies. And God told me, I want you to go out there and help her with these children. And I ended up leaving a congregation that was 500 plus people. They come down here and work with a group, which was about Trese and her children, Canary, Ned,
Tanya and her 6 children.
And Tanya and her 6 children, right, in Troy, and that was about the size of it for Deacon.
Yeah.
And that's when that was in 95 when God called me to pastor out here. So for 1 year, I commuted back and forth into 96 is when we bought the house and we moved out here. We started off in a YMCA room, and in this YMCA room, it was a mess. Jesus, it was a mess. It was a lot of people that had mental struggles that would be in that YMCA, and they was able to smoke. All right, so smoke be all over the YMCA, and smoke would be in your hair, smoke would be in your skin, smoke would be in your clothes. It was, and we had to watch the children. You know, if they went to the washroom, we had to make sure somebody go with them and all of that. And we wanted some water. It cost us a dime.
Yep.
It cost us a dime to get a little cup of water. It cost us a dime. But right there is where God built the congregation. Right there is where we really pulled together with a strong unity. Our unity was so strong that this year preacher, he saw that we was coming in for church service, and so he rented another room to have church service the same time we have church service, which was going to cause mass confusion with the people and we prayed that God block it. I mean, we getting a good turnout from the people. We had the educational programs there showing the people how to fill out applications, how to apply for jobs, how to present yourself. I mean, we were doing some good things there. Now here this preacher come. And hey, they want money, okay? So they're gonna rate it out to him. And we told him, said, this is conflict of interest right here, you know. But the thing is, you got the money, okay? So fine, we gonna rent it. Oh my God, we went before God, fasting and praying, a little small group, you know. The Bible said, where 2 or 3 gather together, touching in agreement, God shall be in the midst. And that Sunday, the man, he had his drums and everything set up in the church to start that Sunday. So that Sunday we get there, and the preacher wasn't there. So the service going on, the preacher's still not there. And then we went to the guy named Art. Art was the one that was over it. You remember Art?
Yeah.
We went to Art, and we said, Art, what happened? They not starting the church? He said, oh, y'all didn't hear? I said, what? That man fell dead last night.
That's terrible.
He fell dead. We didn't ask God to kill him.
We
just said block it. You know what I'm talking about? We just said, Lord, block it. But it was the authority that God gave us. We went on a fast. Brother Larry's wife, Sister Ella, and we went on a fast. You know, that God have mercy, and God saved Sister Ella. So Ella was staunch, you know what I'm talking about. She was staunch, you know. I don't want this and all of that. Okay, Ella was staunch. She didn't want it. And she didn't want Larry to have it. And we went on a fast that God saved Ella. Ella was talking to her best friend on the phone, and her best friend had an aneurysm. Ella's friend, she had an aneurysm, and she ended up dying, and Ella was disturbed. So we praying for her, and this Sunday morning we in church, we getting ready to get started. And Larry, he's setting up, because we had to set up our stuff. Larry was our tape man. You know, he had to set up our stuff. And Larry got everything set up. Then we looked up, and who come walking in the door? Ella. Ella come walking in that door and walked to that altar and got saved and then saved. That's like that. So God, it was just a move of Almighty God. I don't know where I'm at now.
You're good. I got a few questions. So you as you were transitioning to becoming this man of God, you talked about how the Lord was drawing you and how he blew your high. Mm-hmm. 30 years here in Joliet, how has the Lord blown your mind?
Okay. My journey have not been a conventional type of journey. I have been through a lot of stuff. What have blown my mind has been the keeping grace of God. Trese had made mention this today, you know, in spite of what transpired, how God has sustained me and God has kept me. What blew my mind is when I got sick and I had sepsis, and I didn't know I had sepsis, and all the indications that I was gonna die when I was on my back for about 4 months. And they had moved me from upstairs because I couldn't stand being upstairs in that room, and they moved me downstairs on the couch. And first I was at the couch in the living room. Mm-hmm. And one night I was you know, feeling bad, and God told me that I was not going to die, that my sickness was not unto death. That's what God told me, that I'm not going to die. But I was in bad shape. Anybody look at me. I remember one time this young convert named Cherie had came by the house. You remember Cherie? Mm-hmm. She had came by the house, and I was dropping down to skin and bone. And she came over to the house to bring some food, but she didn't see me laying down on the couch. And when she was coming back out, I just said, "Hi, this is Cherie." And she said, "Hi." She turned around, she saw my face, she fell down. No. Yeah, that was Cherie.
Oh, that was Ella.
That was Ella. Thank you. That was Ella. Okay. Ella, she looked over and she spoke, and she looked and she saw how, I had dropped weight. And she fell on the floor. She said, "Oh my God, Lord, bless my pastor." So Cherie came over and she saw me and she said, she's a convert, she had been at the church for a little while. And she said, "Oh my God, you're a hot mess." I mean, people was...
She would always say stuff that was like, okay.
You're a hot mess. So Brother and Sister Rogers came over. Now, I'd have had these 2 episodes with them. So Brother and Sister Rogers, they wanted to see me, because at that time we wasn't allowed as saints to come over because of the way that I was looking. And so Sister Rogers, she just insisted she wanted to see me, and her and her husband. So they sitting down in front of me. I said, "Sister Rogers, I want you to know I'm doing better than what I look." She said, well thank God, because you sure look bad." She said, you sure look bad. So here it is. I'm laying on the couch, and now they done moved me from the living room to the dining room. Okay, I'm in the dining room now. You remember? Mm-hmm. I'm in the dining room, and one night I guess Linda forgot to turn the radio off. And it could have been maybe like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I woke up. I was just asking God for help. That's all I could do. And it was a song that was playing real soft and low. I searched all over. I couldn't find nobody. I searched high and low. Still couldn't find nobody. Nobody greater. Nobody greater than you. Nobody can heal like you can. For most, oh holy God, you are the great I am. No, and God just told me, "I got you. I'ma heal you." When I fell out the dead, and will you now?
Yes.
And
Ambulance showed up.
Yeah, that was another story. We'll be another 2 hours talking about that. But to get me to this place, I went through some things. So I had God let me know He had me. So I fell out the dead. I don't know what happened. Only thing I know is that I felt so safe and secure. I wasn't worried. It was just like, I was in His hands, like in His hands, and I knew I was in God's hand, and I knew what God had told me. So, Latia come over to the house. She fall all out, hollering and screaming and carrying on, and said something about, she was going to work, and she said, "No, I ain't going to work. I'm going to help my daddy." And so she came in the house, and she, upset, hollering. Manny comes over, and Leslie was at school, but Leslie said the same time that I fell out, she said she burst out in tears in class, just started crying.
Yeah.
She didn't know what had happened. She just started crying. And so Lydia come bursting into the house, and the paramedics come behind Lydia. And so Linda like, who called these paramedics? Lydia, I didn't do it. But Trese met him at the door.
Yeah.
And they said there's a man here. You know, I said if I was 55 then or 56, and they said there's a man here sick that is 55. Then Trese said, no, he ain't here, because I was 56.
What year was this?
I don't even. No, this is 2011. It's 2011.
2011.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
1 year later,
Yep.
is your mom.
She got diagnosed. He was sick at the beginning of the year. She was diagnosed officially at the end of that year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like actually, well, after that, because after that is when she was diagnosed. So 6 months later, she was dead.
No.
No.
She was diagnosed. So you were sick February 2011. She started feeling sick while you were sick, but she put it off to the side. You ended up going to Creative Health, and you were there until May.
Right.
And then November of 2011, she was officially diagnosed with breast cancer, and then she died a year after her diagnosis.
Really? Wow.
So,
talk to us about the scriptures that have carried you through these pivotal moments and just have helped to really sustain your faith in God.
Isaiah 43:1, the scripture says I think it's 43:1, the scripture says when we go through the waters, they will not overflow us. When we go through the fire, we will not be burned because we are dying. And God said how he gave Ethiopian and he gave different other people for you because you was precious to me. So God let me know that I was precious. And I had to go through these things to be an example to his people. Okay, the husbandman that later at first must be a partaker of the fruit. So it was needful for me to go through it, but I was precious to him. So
and the ways in which the Lord has answered your prayers through the years, that prayer of asking for a family, like, talk about how he exceeded your expectations.
Jesus. Oh, yes, he did. My quiver is full. And that's what, if anything caused me sometime to be sad, it's because, I'm reaping the benefit, and Linda did not get a chance to reap the benefit. But to have 10 children and 12 grandchildren has been a blast. It's been awesome. We I wouldn't say we had a hard time coming up because God provided. God provided. He really did. And sometimes, I feel that, she should have been able to enjoy some of this, So.
She coming from a big family, did you imagine that you all would have a big family?
She used to talk crazy like that. She always did. And she always did, oh my Jesus, she always did. She wanted to be so much like her mama, man, it was pathetic. And she wanted to be like Nadia. I'm sorry, Alexander family. If y'all see this, maybe Jhmira will cut this one.
But I asked her maybe a week before she died, I said, if you had to do it all over again, would you have had this many children? And she said, nah.
But she that's what she always had a desire for a big family. And I didn't. I tell them all the time, every last one of y'all was an accident. I ain't playing nothing. But that was her desire. She wanted a large family. So now, looking back, 30 years, next year will be 30 years that I've been pastoring, and God has helped me. God has brought me through hard situations. He has brought me through. My body really been taking a beating. I've really been going through a lot in my body. But time and chance happen to us all. God is just letting me know, it's time for the changing of the guards, and that happens in life. God make us strong for so long, and then humanity start creeping up on all of us. So I am welcoming the change that God want to do for my life. And I have to say that God blessed me with a beautiful wife, Denise. Denise she's just a sweet woman. She's just an understanding woman. I don't think that I would have been able to survive without her. She's been my go-to. And the wisdom that God gave her to be able to interact with my family, and the respect that she showed toward my family and toward the girls. It's just like tonight, she sent me a message and said, baby, you probably need to go to G. Alexander with Trese, because she might need that special time. That's just her. That's the way she is, So I'm grateful that God, after taking my late wife Linda, and what we built together, that God saw fit to give me somebody that would fit with my ministry. It couldn't be anybody. It had to be somebody that could fit with my ministry and fit with my children, okay? And she's been able to fit with my family. She know how to get my family room. And she's not overprotective. I talk sometime about relocating. You ain't going nowhere. Them children need you. Them girls need you. Yeah, right. But I'm grateful for everything that God has done. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it.
And you have an outstanding legacy that, even in hearing you share these stories, you've stewarded it with great wisdom. When you look at your grandchildren, what do you see when you see them? What do you hope they take from what they learn of your life?
Well, it's just like Paul said. Paul said, my heart desire and my prayer to God for Israel that they might be saved above any and everything else. That's my desire for my children, because if they don't, then they would never join mom and dad again. Okay, they would never join us again. I would join their mom again. If I stayed faithful to God, I would see her again. But it saddens me that my children are making choices that they would never join us, again. And that saddens me. That, it calls me to pray hard. It calls me to talk to God, because I want for us at some point to join together on that eternal shore. So.
And how about your grandchildren?
Their personalities is something else. I was talking to Mars, that's Manny boy, the other day, and he want to be so much like his daddy. It's a shame, but he loved his dad. But at any rate, I said, Mars, you got some money? No. I said, Mars, okay, you got to take me out to eat. If I'm always doing stuff for him, you got to take me out to eat. Oh, I got you. I said, you got me? He said, yeah, I got you. I said, where you get money from? I got money, Papa. I just started laughing. Just stuff like that, And their personalities is really, really something. I love when Leah come and she bring Carson and Red. Red is super strong, and he don't really understand how strong he really is, And he take off and he run and he bam, hit like a bulldozer, man. Boom, hit me. I be bracing myself when I see him coming. Here it comes. But no, he get right there to me, then he'll stop and just give me a hug. I said, man. My grandchildren, and Carson, and Carson is a very concerned child. He that little boy, man. He concerned. He just about everybody. My granddaughter Erin, I wished I could spend more time with her. She's up in Jersey. I wish I could spend more time with Erin. But she know how Papa feel about her, and Kristen, that's my brother man. And Dana children, I'm here with them all the time, I'm here with them all the time. And the little boy, NG, I've been teaching a series of lessons on sanctification. And so he came into my office the other day. He liked to come in and get his candy and stuff. And I said, NG, are you sanctified? He said, no. So a couple of days later, Daddy brought it in. And I asked him again, I said, NG, are you sanctified? He said, no. I said, well, you need to go into perfection. So I'm with them, and I can't get to talking about Diane. That's Dana, little baby. I call her Diane. She's another whole sermon, but she's a sweet girl. She love her Papa. I call her my queen, and she said, Papa, you my king. I close out with this. In my ministry, I have 5 pastors that have went out from my ministry. I never thought that God would honor me like that. That pastors would come under my ministry and come out from my ministry. Have Pastor Troy Jones in St. Petersburg, Florida. Pastor Howard Moncrief in Greenville, Mississippi. Pastor Rodney Cummings in Montgomery, Alabama, Pastor Mark Mack, which is in Little Rock, Arkansas, and Pastor Anthony Chisholm, that is in Fort Worth, Texas. He got saved Pastor Chisholm got saved under Sister Minnie, but I mentored him, and he recognized me as the pastor that helped him to get established. But I never thought that God would honor my life to that aspect of allowing pastors to come from under my ministry. And I rarely even talk about it. I don't like stick my chest out like I have done something. I have done absolutely nothing. But I'm grateful for where we are right now. And I'm just grateful for this short opportunity to give my story.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask, moving into this new part of your life, almost like going into your 70s, what are you most excited for?
Well, it's how can I say this? It's not my desire to pastor until I'm old and the congregation declined because I don't have the capacity to keep up. I'm looking forward to God preparing someone to take over the pastoralship. I'm looking for God to give us a man after his own heart that would love the flock and care for the flock with the best of their ability. I don't want to stay longer than what I should, and I'm not able to handle the demands of the people. So that's important for me as I go into my 70s. That's important that God send us, a man after his own heart, or God raise up a man after his own heart. And I still feel that I have a little gas in the tank, that if God want to use me evangelizing or something like that, I would be grateful to the Lord. But I don't want to stay too long in the congregation. I mean, these minds of these young people today is different. We need somebody that's, what are they called today? They not
These Gen Zers.
Gen Zers. So I'm excited about however God see fit to bring about that transition, which is my last act as a man of God. It happens to everybody. You only make us strong for so long, and I realize that the different health challenges that my body is going through is telling me that, So that's what I'm looking forward to see how he do it. I never thought that a young man coming from my lifestyle would end up being a preacher. I never thought that someone that was bound by the streets would end up having a pastor heart, that the people that you would take advantage of, now you love, you minister, you support, you know, you're a shepherd. You take them and you put them in your bosom. And you lead them beside the still waters. And you restore them. And you restore them. I never, it's wow. God's ways are past finding out. It's wow. That blows my mind that I actually been preaching over 40 years. You know, that blows my mind. But I'm so grateful because many are called, but few are chosen. God saw fit to choose me for the job. And I hope that somebody can say this about me, that I was fair. You know, that I was fair. I have not always got it right as being a pastor. A lot of things I have done I wish I could redo, but I have never one time ever did anything to hurt nobody. And I hope that even when I'm gone, that the people can say one thing about Pastor Hodges: he was fair.